Chapter 569. The auction only had a total of 126 auction items. Once the 100th auction item was obtained by the Sima clan's primary Sea realm monarch, the auction entered a white-hot phase. Everyone was looking forward to the next auction item. The 108th auction item is a piece of mid-grade heaven stone. This piece of mid-grade heaven stone is about 2 inches in size. I don't have to explain its effects as everyone should know. The starting price is 150,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Let the bidding begin. Luo Qiong lifted the cloth on the tray and said with a smile, "There are indeed mid-grade heaven stones. We must capture him." Mid-grade heaven stones were too important for primary Sea realm monarchs. Be it for the monarchs to comprehend martial arts, comprehend the bone frame pattern, or increase their martial Dao foundation, the heaven stones were of utmost importance. It wasn't exaggerating to say that the heaven stones were enough for a martial artist's path of martial Dao to be smoother. Low-grade heaven stones were already rather useful to primary Sea realm monarchs, but mid-grade heaven stones were 10 times more useful to primary Sea realm monarchs. Right now, even high-level monarchs or peak-level monarchs were tempted. 180,000, 200,000, 250,000. The Golden Spear King and the Wind Saber King, who had been clamoring earlier, did not dare to bid at all. What a joke! They were just 4th-level monarchs, and bidding with high-level monarchs was the same as courting death. 300,000. The Red Rainbow Monarch, who was seated together with the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch, made a bid indifferently. Red Rainbow Monarch, 300,000 isn't enough to buy this mid-grade heaven stone. I will pay 350,000. In the private room next door, the bald middle-aged man sneered. 400,000. The Red Rainbow Monarch knew who the other party was. This person was the South Sun County's Xianxia sect patriarch, Celestial Pole Monarch. His strength was extremely formidable and wasn't inferior to the Red Rainbow Monarch. 450,000. Celestial Terminus King grinned. 500,000. The two of them increased the bid by 50,000 every time, causing the people in the other private rooms to be dumbfounded. One of the 5 major second-rate monarch-class clans in the South Sun County, the high-level monarch from the Sima clan smacked his lips and said, "These monarch-class sects are too wealthy. In my opinion, this mid-grade heaven stone is only worth 400,000 at most. Any more and it isn't worth it." 550,000. The Heavens Limit King continued to bid. 600,000. This price was the Red Rainbow Monarch's bottom line. He might have plenty of middle-grade spirit stones, but he wouldn't waste them like this. As for whether this price exceeded the limit of mid-grade heaven stones, the Red Rainbow Monarch didn't care. As the Red Rainbow sect's sect patriarch, he had always had an immense sense of crisis, and the best way to resolve the crisis was naturally to increase his strength. In fact, it wasn't just the Red Rainbow Monarch that was in danger, all the external monarch-class sects in the Emperor Sky continent were in danger too. After all, there were too many monarch-class sects in the Emperor Sky continent, and there were plenty of Emperor-class factions that were pressuring them. There might be a day when they would be chased out of the Emperor Sky continent. This mid-grade heaven stone is yours. Heaven's Terminus King pursed his lips in displeasure. Ultimately, this mid-grade heaven stone was purchased by the Red Rainbow Monarch for 600,000. The price is a bit too high, but there should still be people fighting for 400,000 medium spiritual stones. The mid-grade heaven stone that Li Fuchen used earlier was also the size of a cup, and the clarity was similar to this piece. It also meant that if Li Fuchen put it up for auction, he would be able to obtain at least 400,000 mid-grade spirit stones. I still have a mid-grade heaven stone that is the size of a bowl and has a mid-grade clarity. I wonder how many mid-grade spirit stones I can obtain if I put it up for auction. Originally, Li Fuchen felt that 500,000 mid-grade spirit stones was considered a lot. But as the auction progressed, he understood that 500,000 mid-grade spirit stones were nothing in the eyes of true experts. He really didn't know how much the heaven-class low-tier weapon would fetch when it was auctioned. 2 million? 5 million? The 115th auction item is a quasi-heaven class artifact saber, Green Flame Artifact Saber. This green flame artifact saber is actually forged with heaven-class low-tier materials, but everyone knows that the failure rate of forging a heaven-class artifact saber is extremely high. This green flame artifact saber is considered a failure. Despite the case, its power is roughly half of a heaven-class low-tier artifact saber. The starting bid is 300,000 mid-grade spirit stones. When the 115th auction item was presented, some of the monarchs who used sabers had eyes that lit up. Even monarchs who didn't use sabers had revealed an interested expression. Among them, most of them didn't have heaven-class martial arts. If they could obtain a quasi-heaven-class artifact saber, they could simply search for Earth-class peak-tier saber art manuals to cultivate. By then, their combat strength would definitely be much stronger than now. If you don't have enough mid-grade spirit stones, I can lend you some. The Red Rainbow Monarch said to the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch shook his head. Your spirit stones still need to bid for a heaven-class low-tier artifact sword. Don't worry, my spirit stones are more than enough to bid for this green flame artifact saber. The bidding had already started, and in just a few breaths, the price of the green flame artifact saber had already climbed to 400,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 500,000. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch made a bid. As the oldest high-level monarch in the Red Rainbow sect, the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch's wealth might not be inferior to the Red Rainbow Monarch. 520,000, 55. 600,000. The price continued to climb. The bidders were either the upper echelons of monarch-class sects or the upper echelons of second-rate monarch-class clans in the South Sun County. Only these two factions had the confidence to contest for the quasi-heaven-class artifact saber. 650,000. Everyone, I am Tao Guang and I am the Tao clan head. I hope that everyone can give me some face. From one of the supreme private rooms, an imposing voice echoed. The Tao clan was one of the 5 second-rate monarch-class clans in the South Sun County. The Tao clan head, Tao Guang, was at the 8th level of Primary Sea Realm and was a famous saber monarch in the South Sun County. After hearing Tao Guang's statement, some of the high-level monarchs who didn't use sabers thought about it and stopped bidding. 700,000. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch sneered and didn't give any face to Tao Guang. 750,000. Tao Guang took a glance at the supreme private room that the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch and the Red Rainbow Monarch were in and increased by 50,000, 1 million. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch didn't say anything, but the bid that he made shocked everyone. Increasing by 250,000 at once, was mid-grade spirit stones really the same as low-grade spirit stones? 1.05 million. Tao Guang didn't wish to give up. He knew clearly that even if a heaven-class low-tier artifact saber appeared, the chances of him obtaining it were very low. Therefore, he had to obtain this green flame artifact saber. 1.2 million. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch's voice was very calm and no one could see through it. Are you really not going to give me, Tao Guang, any face? Tao Guang had an unpleasant expression. 1.2 million mid-grade spirit stones was almost half of a third-rate monarch-class clan's wealth. His Tao clan might be a second-rate monarch-class clan, but the clan's wealth was only around 10 to 20 million mid-grade spirit stones. To spend 10% of the wealth to purchase a saber, it was imaginable how much pressure he was under. Most importantly, he was certain that even if he continued bidding, the other party wouldn't give up. What use do I have for your face? The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch said. Good, very good. Tao Guang didn't say anything else and had already memorized the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch in his heart. If the green flame artifact saber's auction price was shocking, then the following auction items would let everyone know how wealthy a true expert was. A pseudo-heaven class elixir, the Sea Ascension elixir, that could allow high-level monarchs to advance by 1 level was sold for a sky-high price of 1 million mid-grade spirit stones. A pseudo-heaven class artifact armor was sold for a sky-high price of 1.8 million mid-grade spirit stones. A pseudo-heaven class cardinal artifact was sold for a sky-high price of 2.9 million mid-grade spirit stones. For the following auction items, none of them were lower than 1 million mid-grade spirit stones. Most of them were around 2 million mid-grade spirit stones. 125 auction item, A high-tier demonic king's demonic core. Everyone knows how difficult it is to kill a high-tier demonic king. Even half-emperors wouldn't dare to say that they could kill a high-tier demonic king. This high-tier demonic king isn't a regular high-tier demonic king. It is a one-eyed cloud python that contains the bloodline of the cloud-devouring python ruler. Its strength is comparable to a half-emperor, and even 3 to 5 half-emperors might not be able to kill it. The starting price is 1.5 million mid-grade spirit stones. The higher the grade of the demonic core, the higher the price. A demonic king's demonic core contained the demonic king's power essence, and it was very helpful for primary sea realm monarchs to progress. This one-eyed cloud python's demonic core was several times more valuable than a regular high-tier demonic king's demonic core. Whoever bid for it might be able to extract a trace of the cloud-devouring python ruler's power essence. That was a demonic ruler's power. Even a trace was enough for a primary sea realm monarch to enjoy. As expected, the one-eyed cloud python's demonic core was highly sought after. The price soon reached 2 million mid-grade spirit stones and was rapidly approaching 3 million mid-grade spirit stones. Ultimately, this one-eyed cloud python's demonic core was purchased by one of the 5 second-rate monarch class clans, the Yun clan, for 3.2 million mid-grade spirit stones. As the one-eyed cloud python's demonic core was sold to the Yun clan, the entire hall went silent. Everyone knew that the real finale item was about to be auctioned. Cough, cough. The auctioneer cleared his throat while his eyes were bursting with radiance. Everyone, this year's auction is about to end. Just like what everyone has inquired, this year's auction's finale item is a Heaven-class low-tier weapon. Our Purple Sun Trading Company had auctioned Heaven-class low-tier weapons in the South Sun County 20 years ago. Right now, there is another Heaven-class low-tier weapon that is about to be auctioned. Everyone, please don't miss it, otherwise, you will have to wait for another 20 years to present it. Luo Qiong gestured to the back of the auction stage. In response, 2 burly men carried a large tray and walked to the front of the stage. Lifting the cloth on the tray, Luo Qiong yelled, "Heaven Realm Low-Rank Sword, Heaven Rainbow Sword, weighing 99,000 pounds. It is the masterpiece of Cloud State's #1 blacksmith king, the Black Flame Weapon King. It is said that in order to forge this Heaven Rainbow Sword, the Black Flame Weapon King lost 20 years of his life. On the day that the Heaven Rainbow Sword was successfully forged, a lightning tribulation descended from the heavens and struck for 9 days and 9 nights. When the lightning tribulation was exhausted, the Heaven Rainbow Sword's sword chi burst out and split a mountain in half. Its power is immeasurable, so the person who bids for it has to think about it carefully. I will not waste any more time. Heaven Realm Low-Rank Sword, Heaven Rainbow Sword, the starting price is 3 million mid-rank soul stones. If you have enough high-rank soul stones, you can discount it by 10%. Everyone held their breaths while looking at the magnificent artifact sword that had astounding sword intent on the tray. A Heaven-class low-tier artifact sword was something that many people might not be able to see in their entire lives. If a high-level primary sea realm monarch was to possess this sword, it wouldn't be difficult for them to kill half-emperors. No wonder it is a Heaven-class low-tier artifact sword. Li Fuchen's eyes flashed with astonishment. His spiritual awareness could clearly sense the extremely horrific Sword Dao Law and Fire Dao Law from the Heaven Rainbow Sword. If such laws were to be released, it would cause the world to change in color. I have already comprehended 98% of the Joint Heaven Sword's second seal. I wonder what grade the Joint Heaven Sword will reach after comprehending it. Soon enough, Li Fuchen thought of his Joint Heaven Sword. Chapter 570. 4 million. The first bidder was Taisher Shao, the leader of the Taisher family, one of the 5 second-rate king-level families in the South Sun County. Taisher Shao was at the 9th level of Primary Sea Realm and was also an extremely formidable sword king. In the South Sun County, his sword Dao cultivation was at least top 5 or even top 3. Of course, if he could obtain this Heaven Rainbow Sword, his sword Dao strength would be unrivaled in the South Sun County. 4.5 million. The next to bid was the sect master of the Nantian Sword Sect, Nantian Sword King. The South Heaven Sword sect was established with the sword and was purer than the Red Rainbow sect. In terms of sword Dao cultivation, in the entire South Sun County, only the South Heaven Sword monarch was comparable to the Red Rainbow monarch. Ouyang Haotian, bid 5 million. A voice rang out, and everyone fell silent. Ouyang Haotian, the older brother of the Crimson Lake City Lord. The City Lord's mansion was a sharp sword hanging above everyone's head. King-class sects and second-rate king-class clans were nothing in front of the City Lord's mansion. If they really angered the City Lord's mansion, a single order of arrest could make a king-class faction disappear into thin air. After all, the entire Red Moon Empire stood behind the City Lord's mansion. 5 million. The Southern Heaven Sword King's expression turned cold. Did he want to use the City Lord's estate to pressure him? Dream on. He didn't believe that after bidding for this Heaven Rainbow Sword, the Red Lake City Lord residents wouldn't do anything to him. At most, he would withdraw from the Emperor Sky continent and look for another continent. In this world, there wasn't just one Emperor Sky continent. 6 million. Ouyang Haotian's voice was somewhat gloomy. 5 million. The Southern Heaven Sword monarch did not back down. For the sake of this Heaven's Rainbow Sword, he was willing to offend the Crimson Lake City Lord's estate. 7 million. Right at this moment, the Red Rainbow monarch made a bid. Originally, he could have let Sword King Nantian and Ouyang Haotian fight head-on. When Ouyang Haotian gave up, he would then compete with Sword King Nantian. However, the Red Rainbow monarch had his own pride. If he was to do so, it would be the same as telling others that he didn't dare to provoke Ouyang Haotian. It would be detrimental to his sword Dao. The cultivation of the sword Dao required one to cut through thistles and thorns in the first place. Even if there was a cliff in front of them, they had to carve out a path. Ouyang Haotian's expression was very unpleasant. It was fine if the South Heaven Sword monarch didn't put him in his eyes, but now, there was the Red Rainbow monarch. He was different from the two of them. The two of them were willing to spend a massive amount of spirit stones for the Heaven Rainbow Sword, but he merely wanted to take advantage of his status and pick up some scraps. After all, he was only at the 6th level of Primary Sea Realm and wasn't that desperate for the Heaven Rainbow Sword. Even if he obtained the Heaven's Rainbow Sword, he wouldn't dare to go out in the future. Who knew if someone would kill him and rob him? The two of you have good financial resources. I, Ouyang Haotian, am convinced. Ouyang Haotian gave up bidding. He wasn't as wealthy as the two of them. Even the mayor of Crimson Lake City might not be as wealthy as the two of them. The City Lord's mansion amassed a lot of wealth every year, but most of it had to be handed over. Seriously speaking, the City Lords were just some minions under the Red Moon Emperor's command. 8 million. Ouyang Haotian withdrew from the bidding, and Taisher Shao appeared again. Saying that he was afraid of Ouyang Haotian was an injustice to him. If he was alone, he definitely wouldn't be afraid. However, he had the support of the Taisher family. After all, the Taisher family was a local clan and wasn't like the foreign monarch-class sects that could leave as they pleased. 10 million. The Red Rainbow monarch couldn't be bothered to increase by 500,000 or 1 million and immediately bid 10 million. 12 million. The South Heaven Sword monarch followed closely without hesitation. Just as Taisher Shao wanted to bid, he was disappointed. As expected, competing with the sect patriarchs of the monarch-class sects was just asking to be humiliated. These monarch-class sects might only be in a regular mid-grade continent and the resources were far inferior to a top-notch mid-grade continent like the Emperor Sky continent. They probably wouldn't even be comparable to the Emperor Sky continent's 1,000. However, 10% of the resources of a regular mid-grade continent would at least be equivalent to the resources of a city on the Emperor Sky continent. How many resources did a city have? Even if it didn't have 100 million mid-grade spirit stones, it would at least have 80 million mid-grade spirit stones. As time elapsed, the resources would only increase, at least until the resources were depleted. 15 million. The Red Rainbow monarch's eyes turned sharp. 16 million. The South Heaven Sword monarch's eyes turned sharp too. With so many spirit stones, it was already his limit. 18 million. The Red Rainbow monarch's body burst out with a faint sword intent. He didn't do it intentionally, but it was an involuntary action. 19 million. The supreme private room that the South Heaven Sword Monarch was in had a stagnant array, and there was a slight explosion sound. This was the sign of the array collapsing. The isolation array was an array used to isolate spiritual awareness, and to a certain degree, it was very fragile. Therefore, even though it was a Class 7 array, when a top-notch primary C Realm Sword Monarch leaked his sword intent, it still couldn't withstand it. 19 million. Everyone was flabbergasted. Most of them couldn't even produce a few thousand mid-grade spirit stones, but these two individuals could produce 10 to 20 million mid-grade spirit stones. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself with others. 19 million. Just like everyone else, Li Fuchen was also rather flabbergasted. Originally, he thought that 500,000 mid-grade spirit stones was a lot and was comparable with regular primary C Realm Monarchs. But now, he knew that a true elite primary C Realm Monarch would have an unimaginable amount of mid-grade spirit stones. Even if he sold all his heaven stones, he wouldn't be able to produce so many mid-grade spirit stones. Of course, in the future, his spirit stones wouldn't be lesser than any other primary C Realm Monarch. After all, with his spirit soul force, all the stone gambling dens were just piles of spirit stones in his eyes. Sect Patriarch, the opposition should be reaching his limit soon. The three-eyed saber monarch said. The red rainbow monarch nodded and immediately made a bid. 21 million. Crackle. A crack appeared in the supreme private room and revealed the South Heaven Sword Monarch's figure. Good. After saying good, the South Heaven Sword Monarch left. He had thoughts of snatching the Heaven Rainbow Sword, but his rationality told him that if he did so, the consequences would be unimaginable. Firstly, the Purple Sun Merchant Association wasn't a regular merchant association, and the guild leader was a Law Phase Realm Emperor. There might not be any Law Phase Realm Emperors in the auction hall, but there were definitely elite primary C Realm Monarchs. It wasn't impossible for there to be half-emperors overseeing the auction hall. Snatching the Heaven Rainbow Sword was the same as slapping the Purple Sun Merchant Association's face. Secondly, the Red Rainbow Monarch who was bidding against him wasn't inferior to him in strength. If he dared to snatch it, the Red Rainbow Monarch would definitely make a move. Once the South Heaven Sword Monarch left, no one else competed with the Red Rainbow Monarch for the Heaven Rainbow Sword. 21 million going once, 21 million going twice, 21 million going thrice. Congratulations to the Red Rainbow Monarch. Luo Qiong revealed a smile and was very satisfied with the price of the Heaven Rainbow Sword. Before the auction started, he believed that the Heaven Rainbow Sword would at most be sold for 10 million mid-grade spirit stones. It seemed like he had underestimated these Monarch class sections. Here are 21 million mid-grade spirit stones. The Heaven Rainbow Sword is mine. The Supreme Private Room's door opened and the Red Rainbow Monarch tossed out a storage bag. He then extended his hand and sucked the Heaven Rainbow Sword over. Luo Qiong opened the storage bag and took a glance before nodding. The spirit stones are just right. The Heaven Rainbow Sword is indeed yours. Just like that, the auction ended abruptly with a thrilling bidding war. The biggest winner was undoubtedly the Red Rainbow Monarch. But there were some who believed it was the Purple Sun Merchant Association. After all, there were plenty of auction items that were overpriced. The final finale item, the Heaven Rainbow Sword, was overpriced by around 10 million mid-grade spirit stones. The auction has ended, but the influence of the auction hasn't ended yet. Li Fuchen's spiritual awareness was able to see the expressions of many people. There were 126 auction items and every single one of them was precious. Those who didn't have enough wealth and weren't willing would definitely not give up. For a long period of time, the South Sun City wouldn't have peace. Chapter 571. Just as Li Fuchen expected, after the auction ended, the South Sun City wasn't in peace. There were some Battle Spirit Realm Masters and Primary Sea Realm Monarchs who had some gains. They might have disguised themselves or tried to sneak out of South Sun City and return to their own territories. However, only a minority of them were able to leave successfully. Most of them were discovered and there was a shocking battle outside the city. The most eye-catching one was the Red Rainbow Monarch. As soon as the Red Rainbow Monarch and the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch left the South Sun City, they were surrounded by over a dozen high-level monarchs. Originally, they thought it would be a thrilling battle. But the outcome was shocking. The Red Rainbow Monarch fought against 10 alone, killing 3 and injuring 7. The Three-Eyed Saber Monarch fought against 4 and injured 4. These were 14 high-level monarchs and they weren't nobodies. They could even deal with half-emperors. The Red Rainbow Monarch and the Three-Eyed Saber Monarch's strength was truly shocking. This battle made everyone understand that no one in the entire South Sun County would be able to stop these two monarchs. Even the South Sun County Protector was only a half-emperor. Everything had nothing to do with Li Fuchen. After disguising himself and concealing his chi presence, he left the auction hall and entered a restaurant. After exiting, Li Fuchen had restored his true appearance and revealed his chi presence. While walking on the street, Li Fuchen let out a faint smile. As expected, the spiritual awareness that was observing him had vanished. What is going on? Why isn't he out yet? The Golden Spear Monarch had been waiting outside the restaurant. No one knew that the Golden Spear Monarch had two identities. One was the Golden Spear Monarch's identity on the surface and the other was the Blood Hand Bandit's identity in the dark. As the Golden Spear Monarch, he was just a regular 4th-level monarch. But as the Blood Hand Bandit, he had even killed 6th-level monarchs before. If I knew this, I would have followed him in. The Golden Spear Monarch endured his patience and sat down in the opposite restaurant. He would occasionally glance at the entrance of the restaurant across the street. There were plenty of people that were eyeing Li Fuchen, but everyone had a bad premonition. It had already been half a day and Li Fuchen hadn't come out yet. After returning to the inn, Li Fuchen started to refine the Red Lotus Sword, Red Lotus Armor, and Wind Thunder Wings. The Red Lotus Sword contained a blazing sword intent. This blazing sword intent belonged to a type of blazing fire sword Dao Law. As Li Fuchen refined it successfully, scarlet illusory lotus flowers bloomed and were emitting a bewitching murderous chi presence. As expected of a 2-star Earth-class top-rank sword. Wielding the Red Lotus Sword, Li Fuchen poured in the flowing merciless edges sword intent. With a casual swing, the void felt as though it was being sliced apart. The courtyard's array was letting out a cracking sound. Li Fuchen's sword move didn't even release any sword chi, it was just a casual swing. Next, Li Fuchen started to refine the Red Lotus Armor and the Wind Thunder Wings. After refining the Red Lotus Armor, Li Fuchen realized that once the Red Lotus Sword and the Red Lotus Armor were combined, it would allow his offense and defense to increase by a small level. Whenever he brandished the sword, the Red Lotus Armor would help the Red Lotus Sword to condense chi. Whenever he poured chi into the Red Lotus Armor, the Red Lotus Sword would also help the Red Lotus Armor to condense chi. Li Fuchen estimated that when the two items were combined, it was equivalent to increasing his cultivation level by 1 level. It didn't seem like much, but it was very precious. After all, this was an additional increase in strength. The last item that Li Fuchen refined was the Wind Thunder Wings. The Wind Thunder Wings contained the Wind Thunder Law intent. Once chi was poured in, the Wind Thunder intent would be activated, allowing Li Fuchen's speed to increase drastically. Bang! In the small courtyard, there was a huge explosion of wind and thunder. Li Fuchen felt as though he was teleporting and within a few dozen meters, he could arrive in a single thought. With the Wind Thunder Wings, my speed isn't much slower than regular low-level Primary Sea Realm Monarchs. Primary Sea Realm Monarchs were still Primary Sea Realm Monarchs and their chi was several times purer than Battle Spirit Realm Masters. Furthermore, Primary Sea Realm Monarchs could control the nature power, therefore, their speed should be greatly enhanced. It was rather unrealistic for Li Fuchen to rely on the Wind Thunder Wings to catch up with low-level Primary Sea Realm Monarchs. Of course, it was mainly because Li Fuchen's cultivation was too low and was only at the 4th level of Battle Spirit Realm. If his cultivation was at the high level of Battle Spirit Realm, he believed that his speed wouldn't be inferior to regular low-level Primary Sea Realm Monarchs. Secret techniques can comprehend quintessence. Earth-class peak-tier martial arts can derive heaven-class sword moves. Logically, cultivation techniques can be derived from higher levels of cultivation content. Li Fuchen felt that everything had reached the limits. Even the sword pattern on the second seal of the joint heaven sword was comprehended to 98%. He started to put his energy into the Divine Flame Red Rainbow technique. The Divine Flame Red Rainbow technique was an Earth-class peak-tier cultivation technique and had a total of 33 ranks. Logically, the 33rd rank was the highest rank. But Li Fuchen knew clearly that high-class cultivation techniques were derived from low-class cultivation techniques. During the initial stage of human development, there were probably only the most basic yellow-class low-tier cultivation techniques. Later on, higher-class cultivation techniques were gradually derived. The reason why higher-class cultivation techniques were derived was because if humans wanted to pursue higher levels of martial Dao, cultivation techniques were of utmost importance. For example, only by cultivating an Earth-class low-tier cultivation technique, a martial artist would be able to progress from the Reincarnation realm to the Battle Spirit realm. Only by cultivating an Earth-class high-tier cultivation technique, a martial artist would be able to progress from the Battle Spirit realm to the Primary Sea realm. Only by cultivating a Heaven-class low-tier cultivation technique, a martial artist would be able to progress from the Primary Sea realm to the Law Phase realm. With every increase in cultivation realm, the requirements for the cultivation technique would gradually increase. Heaven-class low-tier cultivation techniques were nowhere to be found. Li Fuchen only knew that Law Phase realm emperors would definitely have Heaven-class low-tier cultivation techniques, but who would dare to ask for them? Once they opened their mouths, they would probably be eliminated. Since there was nowhere to find it, Li Fuchen could only derive it himself. He believed that since he was able to create a Heaven-class sword move, it was very possible for him to derive another rank of the Divine Flame Red Rainbow technique. The difficulty of deriving a cultivation technique might be higher than creating a martial arts move. After all, a cultivation technique wasn't just to increase one's strength, it also had to assist in increasing one's cultivation level. If a cultivation technique couldn't increase one's cultivation level, it wouldn't be wrong to say that it was a useless cultivation technique. Deriving a cultivation technique wasn't something that could be done in a day. Li Fuchen felt that his perception was sufficient, but his understanding of the human body wasn't sufficient. The so-called understanding of the human body wasn't something that could be obtained with a scan of the spiritual awareness. It was also necessary to know the functions of every acupoint, every meridian, the functions of the acupoints and meridian. There were too many things and there were almost endless variations. After leaving the inn, Li Fuchen headed for the ancient street. Every city had an ancient street, and most of the ancient streets were filled with grocery stores. Inside the grocery stores, there were all sorts of things. Perhaps this item was useless to you, but to others, it might be of great use. This was the meaning of the existence of grocery stalls. Li Fuchen arrived at the ancient street of the South Sun City's western city. This ancient street was a few dozen miles long and there were hundreds or even thousands of grocery stalls. It was different from what Li Fuchen imagined. This ancient street was rather lively and Li Fuchen could occasionally see a few Primary Sea realm monarchs. After arriving at a rather imposing grocery store, Li Fuchen asked, "Are there any books that explain the human body here?" The shopkeeper replied, "Yes, of course there are. On that bookshelf, there are a few books that explain the human body. Each book costs 50 low-grade spirit stones." The items in the grocery store weren't expensive. Of course, it was only for formidable martial artists. For Reincarnation realm martial artists, it was still very expensive. "I want all of them." Li Fuchen couldn't even be bothered to bargain and immediately took all the books. After Li Fuchen left, the shopkeeper placed a few more books on the human body. He had made plenty of copies of such books on the human body. He wasn't worried that others would imitate him. Firstly, such books on the human body were available in almost every grocery store. It was just a matter of who had the most. Secondly, people who came to purchase such books wouldn't even bother to make copies to sell for spirit stones. It was too shameful and they wouldn't be able to earn a lot of spirit stones. The meaning of a grocery store wasn't to be refined, but to be comprehensive. They had to have all sorts of miscellaneous items. After visiting dozens of grocery stores, Li Fuchen was disappointed to find out that all the books on the human body were roughly the same. Some of them were a little more clever and would change the order of the explanations, but the content was actually the same. It was fortunate that these books were still useful to Li Fuchen. Some of the effects of acupoints and meridians were only understood by Li Fuchen after reading them. In a short moment, Li Fuchen arrived at the largest grocery store on the ancient street. It might be called a grocery store, but it was actually a grocery store. This grocery store had 5 floors and each floor was more precious than the previous floor. Li Fuchen even saw a few heaven-class weapon shards in the display cabinets on the first floor. It was obvious that the grocery store was taking them out to attract customers. I want books on the human body. It would be best if they aren't available in other grocery stores. Li Fuchen stated his intention as soon as he entered. Follow me. The shopkeeper didn't waste any time and brought Li Fuchen to the 4th floor of the grocery store. The grocery stores on this floor were already at the extremely precious level. Taking out a jade scroll, the shopkeeper said, "This is the information on the human body. But you will need to refine the jade scroll and insert your spiritual awareness to obtain the information. 10,000 low-grade spirit stones for each scroll. Do you want it?" Li Fuchen wasn't worried that the contents of the jade scroll were fake. If the shopkeeper could lie to him once, would he be able to do it again? At most, he would just lose 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. After purchasing the jade scroll, Li Fuchen immediately refined it and inserted his spiritual awareness into it. You get what you pay for indeed. As a large amount of information entered his mind, Li Fuchen's face flashed with a satisfied expression. "Li Fuchen, you are here too?" Right at this moment, there was a pleasant voice that echoed from the side. After transferring the information, Li Fuchen turned around and said, "So it is young Lady Qi." It was Qi Junjun, but there wasn't any handsome middle-aged man beside her. "You are also here to participate in the auction, right? It is a pity that I didn't see you." There were so many people in the auction hall, it was normal that Qi Junjun didn't notice Li Fuchen. "That's right." Li Fuchen didn't deny it. After the duo chatted for a moment, Qi Junjun suddenly said, "That's right, Li Fuchen. 3 days later, the county protector's son is going to host a gathering at the South Sun Garden. During that time, most of the young elites from the South Sun County will be attending. I heard that the county protector's son is going to take out a few spirit ascension elixirs as a prize. Why don't you attend with me?" Spirit ascension elixirs. Li Fuchen raised his brows. Chapter 572. All right. After thinking about it, Li Fuchen agreed. He felt that he was about to progress to the 5th level of Battle Spirit Realm soon. If he could obtain a Spirit Ascension Elixir, he might be able to progress to the 6th level of Battle Spirit Realm in 1 or 2 months. To others, advancing by 1 level wasn't a big deal, but to Li Fuchen, advancing by 1 level meant a lot. Advancing by 1 level wouldn't just allow his strength to improve slightly. It would also allow him to control his spiritual awareness more meticulously. His spiritual awareness might be comparable with a top-class monarch, but in terms of control, he was still inferior to a top-class monarch. In addition, the limits of his spiritual awareness were probably beyond the level of a top-class monarch, but due to his cultivation level, he wasn't able to fully control it. The gathering would only be held 3 days later. After returning to the inn, Li Fuchen started to study the information on the human body in his mind. If the contents of those books on the human body were only basic knowledge, then the content of the human body in the jade slip was more advanced knowledge. It involved the changes of yin and yang, the operation of the 5 elements, the heavenly stems and earthly branches, and even the knowledge of the circulation of qi and blood. If Li Fuchen had an ordinary perception, he might not be able to comprehend anything within a short period of time. But Li Fuchen's perception was extremely astounding. Even regular law phase realm emperors might not be able to suppress him in terms of perception. After studying the information, Li Fuchen felt as though he had opened the door to a brand new world and was completely immersed in it. 1 day later, Li Fuchen awakened from the mystical state. The human body is much more complicated than I imagined. According to the introduction, the human body can be considered a small world. It is all-encompassing and doesn't tolerate anything. No one knew what Li Fuchen had comprehended from the information. Only Li Fuchen knew that this jade scroll had an immeasurable value to him. Let alone 10,000 low-grade spirit stones, even 10 billion low-grade spirit stones would be enough to purchase it. It wasn't because the information on the jade scroll was precious. After all, if it was precious, Li Fuchen wouldn't be able to purchase it for 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. It was the contents of the jade scroll that opened up Li Fuchen's perspective and allowed Li Fuchen to have a clear understanding of himself. He had a feeling that his body refinement had been stuck for a long time and he should be able to break through within a month at the latest. On the next day, Li Fuchen started to fuse the human body knowledge with the blazing flame law and the divine flame red rainbow technique. In order to create the 34th rank of the divine flame red rainbow technique, the human body knowledge had to be proficient. Secondly, one must have a deep understanding of the law of fire. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed and Li Fuchen already had some signs. South Sun Garden. In the largest garden in South Sun County. The garden covered an area of 100 miles and was filled with all kinds of flowers. Among them, there was no lack of precious earth-grade flowers. Anyone could enter the South Sun Garden as long as they paid a certain amount of spirit stones. However, only a few people could enter the central garden of South Sun Garden. As for holding a gathering in the central garden, only the son of the prefectural governor and a few others were qualified. Under Qi Junjun's lead, Li Fuchen arrived at the South Sun Garden. Looking at the sea of flowers, Li Fuchen praised, "No wonder this is the #1 garden in the South Sun County." Within the South Sea Garden, there was a very unique charm and the heaven and earth spirit Qi was abnormally dense. Being in the middle of the sea of flowers, it made one forget all worries and all the unhappiness. Boom, his mental state entered into a wondrous state. Li Fuchen broke through. Without any signs, Li Fuchen broke through to the 5th level of Battle Spirit Realm. In fact, it wasn't without any signs. Li Fuchen had been in the Emperor Sky Continent for a very long time and it had already been half a year since he broke through to the 4th level of Battle Spirit Realm. According to the density of the Emperor Sky Continent's laws and his perception, even if he didn't break through now, he would break through soon. He actually broke through. Qi Junjun might already have a high opinion of Li Fuchen, but Li Fuchen's innate potential still shocked her. A person who could break through at any time and place couldn't be treated with common sense. At least, when she came to the South Sun Garden, she only had some thoughts and wasn't like Li Fuchen who broke through as he pleased. "Brother Junyan, who is that person?" Just as Li Fuchen was breaking through, a group of people arrived at the South Sun Garden and one of them was actually Donghua Junyan. As one of the top 10 young experts of South Mountain City, Donghua Junyan was naturally qualified to participate in the gathering. "Brother Tao Hai, that person is called Li Fuchen and has the strength of a great master. It is best not to provoke him. I think Qi Junjun is just an ordinary friend of him." Those who weren't familiar with Donghua Junyan would think that he was a person who didn't wish to stir up trouble. But those who were familiar with him would definitely be able to guess that he might seem to be flattering Li Fuchen, but he was actually trying to divert the trouble. Who didn't know that Tao Hai had been pursuing Qi Junjun? Tao Hai was the #1 youth expert of the Tao clan, which was one of the 5 second-rate monarch-class clans and had the strength of a great master. As expected, Tao Hai snorted and walked towards Qi Junjun and Li Fuchen. How could he not know that Donghua Junyan was trying to sow discord? But he didn't mind. He was concerned that Qi Junjun and Li Fuchen looked rather intimate. In addition, he, Tao Hai, was also a great master and didn't have to fear Li Fuchen. "Junjun, it has been a long time. I wonder who is this? Your friend." When Tao Hai greeted Qi Junjun, he shot an obscure intent at Li Fuchen. It was to interrupt Li Fuchen's breakthrough. When a martial artist was breaking through the cultivation realm, they had to be wholeheartedly focused. If it was forcefully interrupted, it would result in the loss of the breakthrough opportunity. If it was severe, it would result in the qi going berserk, resulting in severe injuries. If it was severe, it was possible for the martial artist to go berserk. Bang! There was an explosion in the air. Li Fuchen's body appeared with a layer of sword intent to block Tao Hai's obscure intent. After opening his eyes, Li Fuchen stared at Tao Hai and asked, "What is the meaning of this?" Tao Hai sneered, "Whatever you think it means." At the same time, he was rather shocked that Li Fuchen actually broke through the cultivation realm so quickly. Furthermore, it looked very stable and it didn't feel like he was breaking through the cultivation realm. "It seems like you are intentionally targeting me." Li Fuchen was able to withstand Tao Hai's intent with ease because his cultivation foundation was firm enough. Furthermore, his spiritual awareness was tough enough too. Breaking through the cultivation realm was completely within his control. If it was anyone else, that person's chi would definitely go berserk during that moment and would definitely suffer severe injuries. After all, Li Fuchen didn't interrupt Tao Hai's breakthrough but used an intent to sneak attack him. "So what if I am targeting you?" The mocking expression on Tao Hai's face was getting more intense. He was trying to infuriate Li Fuchen. As long as Li Fuchen made the first move, Tao Hai wouldn't just knock Li Fuchen down, he would also punish Li Fuchen. Making a move in the South Sun Garden was provoking the son of the county protector and also the rules of the South Sun City. "Li Fuchen, don't fall for the trap." Qi Junjun quickly transmitted a message to Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen nodded silently. How could he not know Tao Hai's intention? But it was impossible for Li Fuchen to suffer in silence. Gathering his spiritual awareness, Li Fuchen shot out the thorn of spiritual awareness at Tao Hai. The mocking expression on Tao Hai's face froze. Immediately after, he let out a miserable scream. It was true that his true spirit was powerful and so was his spiritual awareness. But if he was caught off guard, it was absolutely impossible for him to resist Li Fuchen's thorn of spiritual awareness. If he was prepared and executed his spiritual awareness defense secret technique in advance, Li Fuchen's thorn of spiritual awareness would only make him suffer a little. After all, he had the 7-star bone frame and was also a great master. In terms of true spirit strength, he wasn't inferior to regular low-level primary C realm monarchs. Of course, he didn't guard against Li Fuchen's spiritual awareness attack. This wasn't a spiritual awareness attack that a battle spirit realm expert could produce. It was at least a mid-level primary C realm. "You dare to injure me?" Tao Hai yelled out miserably. "I injured you? Which eye of yours saw that?" Li Fuchen sneered. "Courting death, see splitting saber." Tao Hai was enraged. This kind of spiritual awareness attack couldn't be seen and could only be sensed. But among everyone present, only he could sense the spiritual awareness attack. There was no way to find a witness. A narrow and long battle saber appeared in Tao Hai's hand as he cleaved at Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen was originally able to dodge this saber, but Qi Junjun was at the side. If he dodged, Qi Junjun would definitely be severely injured. The flaming snake sword was unsheathed and Li Fuchen cleaved apart Tao Hai's saber prowess. The powerful force caused Tao Hai to take 3 steps back. Li Fuchen didn't wish to cause trouble in South Sun City, even if Tao Hai made the first move. Therefore, he only used half of his strength for this sword move. Giant whale splitting sea. But Tao Hai didn't have any intention to stop as he cleaved at Li Fuchen with an even stronger saber. Li Fuchen's eyes turned cold as he welcomed the attack with the flaming snake sword. "Stop!" A figure suddenly appeared above Li Fuchen and thrust down with a spear that was like a venomous dragon emerging from its cave. The opposition was obviously biased. It was obviously Tao Hai who made the first move, but he stared at Li Fuchen and called out. After all, Li Fuchen had the strength of a monarch-class master. Even if he had to face 2 great masters, Li Fuchen didn't have any fear. He brandished his sword and blocked the attack from the person and Tao Hai. Such strength! The person's eyes contracted. He used the force to retreat and landed on the ground. The person yelled out, "This is the South Sun City. You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts to make a move here. Brother Tao Hai, let's work together to take down this person and hand him over to the county young lord to convict him." This person was 8 feet in height and had a ferocious expression. From the looks of it, he seemed to have a close relationship with Tao Hai, otherwise, he wouldn't be standing up for Tao Hai. Qi Junjun said, "Wang Daocheng." Tao Hai made the first move. Don't act indiscriminately. Wang Daochang was a young expert from one of the 5 major second-rate monarch-class clans in the South Sun County, the Wang clan. The Tao clan and the Wang clan were influential clans and they were connected by marriage. Tao Hai's lineage and Wang Daochang's lineage were connected by marriage, therefore, the two of them had a rather good relationship. Wang Daochang sneered and said, "I didn't see Brother Tao Hai making a move, but I did see him making a move. Qi Junjun, this matter has nothing to do with you. You better not interfere." The Qi clan might only be a third-rate monarch-class clan, but they were connected by marriage with the plentiful Grain City's city lord residents. Therefore, Wang Daochang didn't dare to reprimand Qi Junjun. Furthermore, Qi Junjun was a great beauty. Just as both sides were about to draw their swords, the county young lord has arrived. Chapter 573. While being escorted by everyone, a slightly plump and dignified youth walked into the South Sun Garden. County Young Lord Lin Shou. If the South Sun County was a kingdom, the county young lord would be the prince. He would be second only to one person and above everyone else. Lin Shou's eyes were calm and no one could see through him. He took a glance at everyone and said, "It doesn't matter who is in the wrong. I will forgive all of you this time. Follow me to the center garden." While speaking, Lin Shou took the lead and walked towards the center garden of the South Sun Garden. A large group of people followed behind. Wang Daochang and Tao Hai glared at Li Fuchen with a sinister look before following too. Qi Junjun said in a soft voice, "This person is the county protector's son, Lin Shou. It is said that his strength is only at the pinnacle master level, but he has multiple Earth-class peak-tier cardinal artifacts and a quasi-heaven-class cardinal artifact. He is considered invincible below the primary sea realm. Perhaps only heaven-class masters are comparable with him. But he has a rather peaceful personality and isn't as overbearing as Tao Hai and Wang Daochang. Multiple Earth-class peak-tier cardinal artifacts and a quasi-heaven-class cardinal artifact?" Li Fuchen was rather speechless. Earth-class peak-tier cardinal artifacts were worth around 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones. A quasi-heaven-class cardinal artifact was even more exaggerated and it was impossible to obtain one without at least 2 million mid-grade spirit stones. No wonder he was the county protector's son and was overflowing with wealth. Just the cardinal artifacts on him were already comparable with the entire wealth of a third-rate monarch-class clan. The center garden was several times more beautiful than the outside. The flowers here were all Earth-class grade and there were plenty of Earth-class high-tier flowers. Just by smelling the fragrance of the flowers, Li Fuchen could feel his qi growing and it made him feel refreshed. In the center garden, there was a cluster of buildings. The buildings were connected to pavilions along long corridors. In the center was a giant garden plaza. After sitting down in the most luxurious pavilion, County Young Lord Lin Shou waved his hand and said, "Everyone doesn't have to be so courteous. Take a seat. Someone, serve the tea and snacks." As the County Young Lord, Lin Shou's wealth was naturally extraordinary. As the beautiful female attendants served tea and desserts, Li Fuchen realized that the value of the tea and desserts weren't inferior to the famous tea houses. With so many people enjoying the tea, the consumption of low-grade spirit stones would be at least 100 million low-grade spirit stones and wouldn't be any less. After everyone sat down, Lin Shou continued, "I invited everyone over for a gathering. Firstly, it's to get to know each other. Secondly, it's to exchange insights on martial arts. Thirdly, it's my personal matter. It won't be too late to talk about it at the end." Lin Shou swept his gaze around and took in everyone's expressions before he continued, "I've prepared 4 spirit ascension elixirs for this gathering. During the exchange, whoever can win 4 rounds in a row will obtain 1 spirit ascension elixir. If anyone can defeat my guard, Lin Hu, I'll reward him with a Royal Dao Golden Elixir." King Dao Golden Core? Everyone sucked in a cold breath. The Monarch Dao Golden Elixir was an Earth-class peak-tier elixir and could assist in breaking through to the primary sea realm. Even for 7-star bone frames or 8-star bone frames, it wasn't that easy to break through to the primary sea realm. It required a long period of accumulation. 8-star bone frames were still fine, but 7-star bone frames would normally require around 10 years of accumulation before they could step into the primary sea realm. But the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir could shorten the time by several times. The earlier one broke through to the primary sea realm, the greater the potential. When most people broke through to the primary sea realm, their potential would be almost depleted. They would only be able to reach the mid-levels of the primary sea realm in their lifetime. If they could become a monarch earlier, it wouldn't be a problem to reach the high-level levels of the primary sea realm. If they could break through to the primary sea realm earlier and have a heaven-class low-tier cultivation technique, they might be able to step into the law phase realm one day and might even become an emperor or ancestor. The County Young Lord is indeed the County Young Lord. He can even take out the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir. The County Protector is considered one of the upper echelons in the Red Moon Empire and is able to come into contact with Elixir Kings. A single Monarch Dao Golden Elixir shouldn't be considered anything. Elixir Kings were existences that were even more esteemed than primary sea realm monarchs. Of course, in most situations, Elixir Kings were primary sea realm monarchs. After all, there were some top-notch concoction grandmasters that were already primary sea realm monarchs. Everyone's breaths were a little rushed and they unconsciously looked at Lin who was beside Lin Shou. After realizing that Lin who was a primary sea realm monarch, everyone felt as though a basin of cold water was poured over their heads and they were completely awakened. What a joke, even a monarch-class master would find it hard to defeat a primary sea realm monarch. Only heaven-class masters would be able to do it easily. The prerequisite was that the opponent was a regular low-level primary sea realm monarch. Only at the first level of primary sea realm? But there were a few who were tempted. They weren't weaklings among the great masters. If Lin who was a second-level primary sea realm monarch, their chances of victory would be minute. But Lin who was only a first-level primary sea realm monarch. If they didn't engage in a life-and-death battle, there was still some hope to defeat Lin Hu. Wu Mang is only a 6-star bone frame. I shall be the first to join in the fun. A figure landed in the garden plaza and it was a young man with a stalwart body. Among the crowd, most of them were 6-star bone frames and there were only a small group of 7-star bone frames. Wu Mang's self-proclaimed 6-star bone frame was definitely a scheme. He was a 6-star bone frame and even if a 7-star bone frame defeated him, there wouldn't be any glory. I, Huang Tao, am also a 6-star bone frame. I shall come up and spar with you. A slender figure jumped up and fought with Wu Mang. Both of them wanted the Spirit Ascension Elixir, therefore, they weren't going to hold back. After over a dozen moves, both of them burst out with extraordinary power and executed extraordinary divine abilities. Boom, boom, boom. The garden plaza was enveloped by an array and the chief forces of their attacks weren't leaked out, but it was still extremely intense. In the end, Wu Mang was superior and won the first spar. 1 match, 2 matches, 3 matches, Wu Mang's strength was indeed formidable. He was obviously a 6-star bone frame but he wasn't considered weak among the pinnacle masters. In just a short moment, he had already won 3 matches in a row. If he won another match, he would be able to obtain a Spirit Ascension Elixir. Yuanzhua. Another figure jumped onto it. After seeing this person, Wu Mang's expression turned sluggish and he cursed silently. Yuanzhua might also be a 6-star bone frame, but he was a 6-star darkness bone frame. Furthermore, the divine ability he awakened was the extremely powerful darkness sky canopy. Without any nonsense, Yuanzhua immediately executed the darkness sky canopy and enveloped Wu Mang with a dark cover. When the dark cover dispersed, Wu Mang vomited fresh blood and was lying on the ground. It was obvious that he was already defeated. He actually awakened the darkness sky canopy like Wang Heilong. Li Fuchen was rather surprised. The darkness sky canopy was definitely an extremely high-class divine ability and was even superior to his heart of blazing flame. Those who awakened this divine ability were basically invincible among the 6-star bone frames. For the next 3 matches, Yuanzhua defeated his opponents with ease. In the face of his darkness sky canopy, his opponents were undoubtedly blind and deaf. They didn't even have the strength to retaliate. Alright, this is a Spirit Ascension Elixir. Lin Shou waved his hand and sent a jade bottle to Yuanzhua. Thank you, County Young Lord. After receiving the jade bottle, Yuanzhua's face flashed with a trace of delight. Kid, get on the stage. Swish. With a flash, Tao Hai appeared in the center of the garden plaza. He stared at Li Fuchen with murderous intent. He might have suffered from Li Fuchen's hands earlier, but he believed that if he was prepared, it would be hard for Li Fuchen to injure his true spirit. Apart from that, his strongest move was his divine ability. If he didn't execute his divine ability, his strength would only be at the pinnacle master level. Only when he executed his divine ability would he be at the great master level. Li Fuchen, be careful. Tao Hai's divine ability is called the Trident Halberd. It is extremely tyrannical. Qi Junjun divulged some information about Tao Hai. Nodding, Li Fuchen flashed and appeared in front of Tao Hai. If you are only formidable in spiritual awareness attacks, you better kneel down and admit defeat. Tao Hai might be speaking like this, but he had already executed his spiritual awareness defense secret technique. At the same time, the soft water power burst out and enveloped Li Fuchen with an absolute prowess. Li Fuchen mocked. Previously, he had only used the ordinary thorn of spiritual awareness to attack Tao Hai. If he executed the avian thorn or the avian king thorn, Tao Hai's true spirit would have been severely injured and would have fainted. He wouldn't be standing in front of Li Fuchen. Don't worry, I don't need to execute my spiritual awareness attacks to deal with you. Li Fuchen said. You are courting death, Trident Halberd. The soft water power burst out to the extremity and the divine ability pattern was produced. An extremely heavy trident appeared in Tao Hai's hand and was formed with the soft water power. Tao Hai wielded the giant trident and smashed at Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen was rather surprised when he felt the spatial zone getting heavier. Tao Hai's trident halberd didn't just contain the water Dao law, it obviously contained a type of power law. Otherwise, the trident wouldn't be able to affect the spatial zone and press down like a mountain. Li Fuchen didn't need to be serious to deal with Tao Hai. A simple slash that contained traces of the flowing merciless edge sword intent had severed the trident and left a bloody wound on Tao Hai's body. Impossible! Tao Hai looked down at the bloody wound on his body and was in disbelief. He defeated Tao Hai in a single sword? Wang Daochang's scalp went numb and this was the first time he felt a chill down his spine. Tao Hai might not be considered an incredible great master, but he was still a great master. In order to defeat Tao Hai in a single sword, one would need to have the strength of a pinnacle great master. In the Red Moon Empire, pinnacle great masters were definitely one-star generals. Good, this sword move is incredible. Lin Shou's eyes lit up. This spirit ascension elixir is yours. Even though Li Fuchen hadn't won 4 consecutive matches, Lin Shou didn't care and still gave Li Fuchen a spirit ascension elixir. Thank you, County Young Lord. After receiving the spirit ascension elixir, Li Fuchen spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Originally, Li Fuchen was planning to fight another 3 matches, but since he already obtained the spirit ascension elixir, it wasn't good for him to continue staying. He flashed and returned to the pavilion. The rest of the people didn't think of challenging Li Fuchen either. After all, it wasn't necessary and they weren't certain they could win. Chapter 574. Once the last 2 spirit ascension elixirs were taken, Lin Shou said, the 4 spirit ascension elixirs are taken. There is only 1 monarch Dao golden elixir left. If anyone is confident in their strength, they can challenge my guard, Lin Hu. As long as you are slightly superior, this monarch Dao golden elixir will belong to you. County Young Lord, I, Lu Jie, am willing to give it a try. A handsome young man with long hair arrived on the stage. Lu Jie, one of the 5 major second-rate monarch class clans. He was the #1 youth expert of the Lu clan and he was actually the #1 youth expert in the Lu clan for the past few centuries. His strength had already reached the great master level a few years ago and he had the 7-star saber Dao bone frame. His strength was much stronger than Tao Hai and Wang Daochang. Please enlighten me. Lin Hu appeared opposite of Lu Jie as though he teleported. He stood with his hands behind his back and was very confident. After all, he was a primary Sea Realm monarch. Even if he was only at the first level of primary Sea Realm, he wasn't someone that any great master could compare with. Dark Knight / Wuxia didn't dare to be negligent and immediately burst out with Saber Dao power. He executed the Saber Dao divine ability, Dark Knight / The Dark Knight / was a half-moon-shaped black saber light. The black saber light seemed to have spirituality, and when Wuxia brandished his right hand, it expanded violently and turned into a black arc that was around 8 meters in size that cleaved at Lin Hu. Lin Hu didn't execute his divine ability as he was only a 6-star bone frame and his divine ability wasn't as powerful as his martial art. Clenching his right fist, Lin Hu punched at the black arc. Bang. There seemed to be a slight distortion in the void. The black arc was extremely tough, and after this punch, it might have cracked, but it was still intact. It felt as though it was stuck with strong glue, and it looked like countless threads were threaded together. Lin Hu raised his eyebrows, and the strength of his fist increased by several notches. Boom! The black arc of light still exploded. The corner of Wuxia's mouth leaked out a trace of blood as he soared into the sky and cleaved at Lin Hu with another Dark Knight / His Dark Knight / was an extremely powerful Saber Dao divine ability. Once it hit Lin Hu, it would be enough to injure him. Lin Hu grinned coldly while his right fist flashed with cold radiance. When he executed a single punch, it felt as though the space was going to be penetrated and there was a black scar. Subsequently, the Dark Knight / was shattered and burst into a rain of light. The wind comes. Lin Hu grabbed at the void with his left hand, and the dense wind Dao Yuan Qi above the South Sun Garden frantically gathered over. In the next moment, Wuxia felt as if he had fallen into a swamp, and his every move slowed down by half. Controlling the power of nature. This was the signature power of a primary Sea Realm monarch, and it was also the trump card of a primary Sea Realm monarch to deal with lower-level martial artists. Bang! With a punch, Wuxia was sent flying. Lin Shou revealed a disappointed expression. Although Wuxia was strong, he was still a little lacking. Sima Heng is here to seek guidance. A figure shot towards Lin Hu like lightning. Sima Heng, the Sima clan's #1 prodigy in a century. He had the 7-star Wind Thunder Bone Frame. The Wind Thunder Bone Frame might not be comparable to the Saber Dao Bone Frame, but the Wind Thunder divine ability that Sima Heng awakened might not be inferior to Wuxia's Saber Dao divine ability. Most importantly, Sima Heng was a few years older than Wuxia. Therefore, Sima Heng's comprehension of the Wind Thunder Bone Frame pattern was slightly more than Wuxia's. Wind and Thunder Great Breakthrough. With a roar, Sima Heng sent a palm strike at Lin Hu. Rumble! A giant thunderbolt whirlpool was suddenly formed. This thunderbolt whirlpool didn't just contain the thunderbolt laws, it also contained the Wind Dao laws. When the two laws were combined, it formed an unparalleled Wind Thunder divine ability pattern. It was violent and powerful like the end of the world. Just in time. Lin Hu's eyes burst out with radiance as he blasted a massive violent wind fist over. Bang bang! The chi forces were like raging waves that clashed with one another. Lin Hu and Sima Heng, who were in the middle of it, were constantly retreating, but it was obvious that Lin Hu's strength was much stronger than Sima Heng. Sima Heng took dozens of steps back while Lin Hu only took a few steps back. Wind come. Lin Hu was still controlling the power of nature. He gathered all the Wind Dao Qi above the South Sun Garden and pressed it on Sima Heng. What a powerful pressure! Sima Heng's expression changed drastically. He thought that his extraordinary power was more vigorous than Wuxia and should be able to resist Lin Hu's control of the power of nature. But now, he realized that he couldn't resist at all. In this extremely concentrated and sticky Wind Dao Qi, he wasn't able to move freely. With a punch, Sima Heng was sent flying. He can't even beat Lin Hu, so he's just a normal character in the latent shadow abyss. Lin Shou sighed. After taking a glance, Lin Shou raised his brows. He originally thought that Li Fuchen would challenge Lin Hu too, but from the looks of it, it didn't seem like Li Fuchen wanted to participate. "Brother, what's your name? Why aren't you challenging my guards?" Lin Shou asked. Everyone looked at Li Fuchen in response. They were rather curious too. Logically speaking, the strength that Li Fuchen displayed was only superior to Lu Jie and Sima Heng. There was still some hope for him to challenge Lin Hu. Could it be that Li Fuchen didn't fancy the Monarch Dao Golden Core? That's not right. Everyone wanted the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir. Even 8-star bone frames wouldn't despise the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir. It wasn't that Li Fuchen wasn't interested in the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir. Even if he firmly believed that he could enter the primary sea realm very quickly, with the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir, it would definitely be faster. But he had a premonition that this Monarch Dao Golden Pill was not so easy to obtain. It wasn't that he couldn't defeat Lin Hu, but after defeating Lin Hu, he didn't know how to respond to the County Young Lord's requests. I am Li Fuchen. Since the County Young Lord has named me, then Fuchen shall accept. After speaking, Li Fuchen flashed and appeared in front of Lin Hu. Since he couldn't refuse the Monarch Dao Golden Elixir, then he would accept it. As for intentionally losing to Lin Hu, Li Fuchen didn't think about it. Rather than intentionally losing to Lin Hu, he might as well reject the challenge. This fellow is truly arrogant. Tao Hai had a face of mockery. He didn't believe that Li Fuchen could defeat Lin Hu. As a great master, he could see that Lin Hu didn't go all out when he was fighting against Lu Jie and Sima Heng. Alright, if you can fight to a draw with Lin Hu, this Monarch Dao Golden Elixir will belong to you. Lin Shou lowered his request mainly because it was too difficult to defeat Lin Hu. It was fine if he could fight to a draw with Lin Hu. It was fortunate that he had already invited some formidable masters and there were plenty of 2-star generals among them. Lin Hu was rather unhappy when looking at Li Fuchen. In his opinion, it wasn't that Li Fuchen didn't have the intention to fight, he just wanted to receive the County Young Lord's attention. Lin Hu revealed a sneer and said, "Be careful now." This was the first time he made a move. Furthermore, he immediately gathered a large amount of wind Dao Qi and used it with his field to press at Li Fuchen. Clang! The flaming snake sword was flicked out and Li Fuchen slashed. Visible to the naked eye, a bright red thread appeared in the void. This thread was tough and sharp to the extreme. The compressed and solidified Windwei Yuan Qi was sliced into two by this thread. In the next moment, the thread had already appeared in front of Lin Hu. Lin Hu raised his brows and punched at the thread. Rumble! There was an intense explosion and a figure was sent flying. Everyone took a closer look and realized that it was Lin Hu. There was a gasp and everyone was flabbergasted. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.